Welcome back to Upkeep with Sean. If you've seen my first video, you've seen how this water heater had failed on me because the pilot light would not stay lit. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to replace this pilot light assembly that comes with the thermoprobe, gas line, and igniter. If you've seen the first video, you also see that I broke the igniter button. Now, one thing I realized was online you can buy the pilot assembly, but the gasket sets are a bit difficult to get a hold of. The gasket for this and the gasket for the main, which this is all going to be coming out. Those gaskets just fall right apart. As soon as everything's taken apart, they tear apart because they're just old and brittle. Now, let me go and show you the product that I purchased for this. So the product that I have here is a ProTech product. It comes with, as a whole kit, new gaskets for the assembly, new screws and nuts and clips, a bracket that goes for this pilot assembly. We got the igniter, thermoprobe, and the gas pilot line. That all goes together. I believe this bracket here is to mount this in case this does not mount correctly. With this kit, you actually get an additional bracket to mount with earlier models or later models. So depending on the year yours was manufactured, it may or may not need this bracket if it can screw straight on there. The next thing I purchased was the new ignition button, the igniter button with the clip. That's also a ProTech product, and the part number and link to the products will be in the description down below. Just take a look at that if you're looking for those. This seems like the most best and complete kit that I've found. All the other kits may just show just this alone, and it's been reported that people are having problems installing it because they're missing this universal bracket and this angles the wrong way. So we want to put this all back to original, as original as possible, so it works great for another 10 years. Because that's how old this water heater is. There's nothing else wrong with it. Everything works great. Okay, here's a tool list of what's involved so far. I have not opened it, so I am not sure about what other tools may be needed. But just from the surface, on the outside, to get this going, we will need a 3/4 inch wrench to take the gas line off from the thermostat, an 11 and a 3/8 wrench. That's to take these lines off, the gas line and the thermocouple line off. We'll need a 9mm to take the nuts off of the cover, and a T20 Torx. And I'll be using a handy electric driver, screw gun. You can use regular hand tools, a ratchet and driver if you wish as well. I just like to use this to speed things up. And as we get inside, I'll look to see if there are any other tools. What other tools we'll need to take this bracket assembly off to remove the unit. So now let's get started. Turn everything off. Now first thing we want to do is turn everything off. Turn the valve off here for the thermostat and turn the gas off over here. And here's the broken gasket as we were expecting. Okay, now this won't fit out because the space is too small in here. So I'm not able to get this out, so I'm going to disconnect the burner here and pull her out. Our 3/8 inch nuts. So that'll be a 3/8 socket. Now I was looking at this a little bit more and realized this burner would normally come out as an assembly. However, because of this drip pan here, I'm touching on the bottom, which will not let me straighten out, come out. So that is why we are doing it this way. For you guys that don't use this, this will come right out. Here in California, they require this, so we'll just have to disconnect it. Okay, so the cover, it ended up making its way out on its own. So there's that. I thought that this would come out with it, but apparently it is together. So here's the cover. Taking out the cover. And like I mentioned, we're changing all the gaskets. So I have my Phillips screwdriver here. Screw out. Now one thing that's interesting is this gas line here is wrapping all the way around the whole burner. So here's the whole burner assembly. And they got this gas line wrapping all the way around. The pilot gas. One thing I always like to do is check the replacement parts before removing everything so you know where everything's going to go. Well, first off, the gas line is too short on this one for it to make a really long ride all the way around the burner. So the gas line's too short on the new one, and that's fine. We're going to run it without doing that. It's a lot easier. However, I am noticing one issue here, now that I'm looking at it again, is here's where the difference comes in. We got the pilot light here on the original, the thermal probe here, and the ignition here. Okay, on the bottom. On the bottom side, right over here. Now, when I look at this one, the pilot light is actually facing the other way. The pilot's facing the other way. Kind of like this is upside down, you know? Like these two are switched. So I want to keep it the same. So I'm going to check the bracket to see if that will help us out in this situation. This unit was manufactured in March of 2013. So we will have to put the modification bracket on there. Now, as I was stating, the pilots are on opposite sides. There's the gas pilot there, and here's the gas pilot here. So these are on opposite sides. You're going to want the flame closer to the burner instead of further away. So let's go and put this modification bracket in the way that they state. and we'll get this done right. So first, I'm going to remove the whole gas line assembly here. Okay, we got that out of the way. Okay, let's remove the bracket. So the new bracket will install like this. There's the screw holes for the old bracket, and they match up. Thank goodness there's no drilling involved. They match up here, and this tank will hold. This tank here will hold right against the burner. And you could always reuse the screws that it came with if you wish. I like to just put all new screws since they came with them. There's one. There's another one that's in the kit. Now, these screws, how did I know that those were the screws? Well, I followed the old one. This is what the old one looks like. So those are fresh new ones. Now this is going to mount this way onto there. So let's get the screws for that. Okay, now we can see how the new replacement is set up. Now we do have the pilot near the burner. Got the thermocouple down below. And the ignition, the igniter, all set up. Alright, so we have everything ready. One thing they do mention is when you're installing it into the cover, make sure this orientation is correct, where the gas line for the pilot is facing this way, just as such. So now let's go and install this, put this all back in. Whoa, let's go ahead and change these gaskets out first. I'm just going to use a plastic scraper tool to get this gasket out of here so we can put a new one. And another thing I'll do here while I'm in here is give it a little wipe, because it's quite dusty inside. Go. It has a little adhesive backing on it. And since we're here, we'll go ahead and change the gaskets for the rest of them. This one had already fallen out. This one's still stuck in here pretty well. Okay, one thing I noticed is the screw holes are off. So we have a screw hole here, which is fine, but my screw hole's up here for this, and that screw hole's down there. No big deal. We're gonna poke a hole. Okay, so I have it all pressed fit in here, and it fits nice and snug. As you can see, it's not falling out. There's no adhesive. It's just the foil back that's against the steel here. In regards to the hole, we can go and poke it through. I'm making a few pokes here just so it's big enough to handle the extra range, since the screw may not be dead center on it. So that looks good there. We got our hole in there, and we'll just need one more over here. So now we have our holes. Got our hole there, got our hole there. There we go. Here's the next one. Now, this one doesn't have any adhesive backing either. So we're going to go smooth side back this way. There we go. Smooth side back towards the water heater. Okay, we got all our holes lined up. The gasket in place. And we're ready to install. Now we're ready to install. Let's install this next. Let's start with the burner. Now remember, this pilot gas line needs to be facing that way, to the right. Okay, we got this grommet right into place. Earlier I was having a little bit of issues getting this grommet in because the gasket was in the way. Since it's a new gasket, it's a bit wider and thicker, so it was getting in the way of allowing the grommet to seat. But this grommet has seated now that I pushed that gasket out of the way. Now with my fingers in the back here, I'm going to tuck it in just a little bit. There we go. Now it's time to feed the burner back in. There we go. Now inside there is like a little step where the burner has to go above. If you angle it downwards going in, it'll keep stopping on that step. So you want to make sure it's on top of that. So that feels seated now. Okay, I was wondering why the screws were hard to reach. It's because this gasket's really thick. So since you're using a new gasket, remember it's going to be a lot thicker, so it's going to be a little harder to reach the screw holes in there. One thing I like to do is not to tighten it all the way until I feel that everything's aligned. Since we got another 2 screws on the bottom to do, I am not going to tighten that yet. This will go up in here, finger tying, just to make it faster and easier later. We're going to connect the wires, and then I'm going to put the sleeve over it because it will spark and shock you. Okay, now let's turn the gas on, the pilot into pilot mode, and pilot over here. And okay, now let's turn the pilot on. Let's try giving it an ignite. I got the button pushed down, and there we go. First click, first try. On, nice and strong and steady. Let go of the button. It's been about 3 seconds. You heard that? Buttons let go. Let's turn this over to the on position. And I'm going to adjust the thermostat in. And we have liftoff, folks. There is the burner in there, nice and happy. You see the big blue flame through the sight glass here. And it is on. We are good to go. I call this a success. Like and subscribe for more videos just like this. DIY videos where you too can do it yourself and save yourself money.